So yeah, I'm planning on making a tutorial or a few tutorials on some space fighter AI here. So you'll see here this little fighter is chasing me around and then finding kind of random waypoints. And this is far from perfect, but it's pretty cool. You can see he does do some weaving and stuff like that. Every now and then he gets stuck on some of these craggy asteroids. Let's see, I can probably get him. Oh, he dodged it. He's coming around for me. He's not going super fast because he's close. Ooh, I crashed. So when he gets close, he'll figure out something else to do. So one cool thing about this is a kind of a home-rolled behavior tree. So usually I like using something like Behavior Designer, but thought it'd be cool to try to make something homegrown. And the one problem with the behavior tree setup is that it's a little bit more code heavy and less visual scripting. Some of the asset store things that are available have nice visuals to debug your scripting. So this basically has all the same kind of features, or at least the possibility to add features for some of those behavior tree assets, but you have to build basically like lists of sequences and selectors and then put them together. So it's not quite as intuitive. I'm figuring out how to maybe make it a little bit more intuitive for use. So you'll see him flying around. But yeah, the basics for this behavior sequence is he picks a target, flies to it, and then he rolls a 100-sided die, and if he gets higher than a 50, he chases the player, and if he gets lower than a 50, he picks another random waypoint in the asteroid field and flies to it. So, and the asteroid avoidance is done with raycasts. This is not an A-star setup, so he's basically just doing some local avoidance. When he gets close to something, he looks around him and sees if there's a clear path to the left or right, and it's sort of gauged based on how close he is to something too, how extreme he's going to turn. So sometimes you'll see an extreme turn, but it took a little while to get to this because my turning code is different than the way a lot of people implement this type of avoidance using steering behavior. So I'm not adding force to this ship to make him turn, so I'm just rotating him based on like what heading he wants. So I had to figure out a way to set that up. So, and he's pretty good at chasing me. I'm gonna hide. So you can imagine if he knew how to shoot his guns, he would be blasting me right now. So that'll be the next step here. So the actual setup is pretty intense, and I can so I don't know how long it will take me to explain everything, but I thought about doing like a finite state machine, but like the way that I would do it is like a switch case, which is kind of like a terrible way to do a finite state machine. So if you want a good finite state machine, you're basically building it out. Oh, look, my AI got stuck. Oh, no, he's free. I might make some sort of backing out reverse throttle for him too if he gets stuck. But finite state machines, like a good one, you need to like have classes for states and classes for transitions and then all the different tasks and things like that. So it's almost like building a behavior tree setup. So I just thought, why don't we just go with the behavior tree, which is what I like using for AI. So this is interesting. He's kind of just circling here. He doesn't quite know what to do. That's interesting. So here's another thing. Like you probably want to give, oh, he got out of it. I guess he had like a couple different asteroids here he's kind of stuck between, so he's trying to figure out how to get around them, and he's having a hard time. So one thing to think about with your AI is if they're taking too long to do a task, you might want to have a timer, have it switch out. So yeah, he's back to his circle. I think he's in some sort of pattern that he can't get out of. So adding a little bit of randomization to your decisions and things like that might also help. I can hit him with my, let's see if I can shoot him off course a little bit. Maybe he'll do something else. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. He's back in his circle again. Yeah. So what I came to realize was finite state machines, while seemingly a simple answer to gaming AI, if you want to do them right, it's already like building a behavior tree. So here's my problem with when you get stuck. Okay, so I just decided to start working on that. So since this is just like a quick live stream, let me show you. So yeah, everything's messy. I've been working a lot on this. So yeah, so here is my behavior tree folder here, and let's see, can I open up my, yeah. So if you look over here, oh, that didn't help. But we have our, there we go. Okay, so here's my folder of behavior tree stuff. So we have a behavior base node and then base state. So the states for behaviors are just basically success, failure, and running. And then we have some basically different types of nodes or leafs in the behavior tree. So the way a behavior tree works is it kind of goes through like a flow chart, and it looks at each task and evaluates it. And if it evaluates success, then it returns a success. If it evaluates failure, it returns a failure. So you can base different nodes on whether they're expecting a success or a failure, and whether they should move on to the next thing or not. So, so the key things here are the selector and the sequence. So sequence basically says run all of these tasks in a row. Okay, so and if one fails, then it returns failure. So if you can run a few tasks and then it fails, it shoots it back up the tree again to be reevaluated. And then the selector basically has is where you can kind of set up a branching path. So you can have kind of two choices, and it will evaluate left to right. So the first thing that you put into your list, it will evaluate, and if it returns false or failure, then it will go to the next thing in the selector and see if that one works. Okay, so that way you can kind of do some checks, say like, oh, you know, should I attack, or should I find repairs, or should I do something else? You can have kind of like a bunch of checks, and then within those checks you could have like a thing to do. So and I have that set up for my AI here to kind of check for things. So and then there's kind of like tasks, different types of tasks, and I have one conditional currently, which is this random, I think that's the only real conditional. I guess check target arrival task is actually a conditional as well. I should probably change it to a conditional, because it's checking to see whether something happened, true or false. Same with random conditional, it's basically saying like, if you get 50 or higher, then do the next thing in the list, or if not, fail. So yeah, so I can show you, I'll show you my AI script, which is, no, that's not it. So I have another interface, which also we're going to tag onto our AI controller, and it just kind of grabs a couple different things. It's just things that our behavior tree might need access to. So having this interface means that our behavior tree will know that it can always get a position, set a target, get a target, things like that. And we can always add more things here as we come up with them. This way, we can design tasks and things like that and have assumptions, or else you'd be stuck not knowing anything about the AI agent. So, okay, here's my AI controller. This is going to be a little bit messy, but I think I cleaned it up a little bit. Okay, so this basically is similar to the input controller that we created for the player. So it has to have all these events in it to work. You don't actually have to do anything with these events, but you have to define them because the interface is there. So this, because it has that interface, it can control any ship that would take the iController input. But then we also add on this iBehavior AI, and that will add those AI, or we'll have to implement those AI functions so that our behavior tree system will work with it. So it's got a couple things, some targeting stuff in here, and then it has our behavior tree stuff right here. So I have a selector called root AI. That's kind of the beginning one. That's the one that gets evaluated basically every update. And then I have a couple other ones that I've defined. I've got a sequence called check target sequence. I've got one called move to target sequence. I've got one called chance to chase target sequence. And I have a selector called select target type. Okay, so basically you have to define these things, and then you can put them together and run an AI. So in the start method, that's where I kind of define them all. So let me go down to the root so you can kind of see. This is actually, you have to define them all first, kind of in reverse order, essentially. So this is the root AI. So this is a selector. So it has a list of nodes, and it basically just has two nodes that it's going to choose from. So the first thing it's going to check out is check the target sequence. And then the second thing it's going to do is move to target sequence. So if check target sequence is a failure, then it's going to go to move. Okay, so the default of our route is go towards the target. But the first thing we're going to do is evaluate whether or not we've gotten to our target. So that's what check target sequence does. So root AI runs, it evaluates, it says, okay, check target sequence. It goes to check target sequence. It says, okay, let's check to see if we've arrived at our target. And if we haven't arrived at our target, if we have arrived at our target, we're going to select a new target. And we're going to go to this select target type. Okay, so if this is true, this is a sequence. If this is true, we go to the next thing. And the select target type is the selector. And so this is going to choose between these two things. Okay, so there's another sequence in here that's going to kind of evaluate something and then run something. And then the other thing it can do is find a new wander point. So if this one fails, if the chance to chase target sequence fails, then we're just going to find a wander point, which is some random point. Okay, so let's go up to chance to chase. So in that one, we're going to roll a random die, 1 to 100, and if we hit 50, we're going to find a new target, and that's going to be like a player. Okay, so if this fails, then we go find wander point. All right, and once we do that, then we have a new target. We'll reevaluate the whole route again, and we'll check the sequence. We'll know that we've just found a new target that's really far away, so we won't be close by, so that will fail, and then we'll move to the new target, and that's the move target sequence. So the move target sequence is right here. And so the move target sequence actually controls our ship. So the first thing it does is turns to target and uses avoidance, and then it moves to the target. So this is a sequence. So it's going to do both of these things. And these things automatically return successes. They just do what they need to do, and then they go. So you can control the ship this way. And you'll see here I'm passing in the turn event, and here I'm passing in the forward event. So our behavior tree can fire off these events once it has the right stuff. So we are controlling our ship controller just like our player, but we're using our AI behavior tree to do it. So we're passing those things in. So yeah, And this is just, I'm just kind of previewing it. We can do some live typing in the future and showing this off as part of the tutorial for real. But so this is like the move to target task. So it has a bunch of things. I think it doesn't need range. Yeah, oh no, it does. Okay, yeah. So it takes the interface for the AI, right? So now we have access to those specific methods that we use in our behavior tree. It has an agent position, a target position, a range, and then the input forward event. All right, so this is just a constructor for our class. And so when we create our thing, we need to pass in these variables, and then it sets them to the local variables within the class. So you pass them in, you set them to your local variables here, and then you move on. So one thing about this is that these positions are kind of dynamic depending on what type of thing you're chasing, so you need to update them. So when the behavior tree evaluates, we need to just update them again so that they're the most recent position. If you just set them in the constructor, then whatever the position of the target was, or the position of the AI agent was at that time, will be set, and it will stay the same even if you've moved around, so, or the thing's moved around. So I just have some debugging here because right now I don't have any way to visualize this, so it just gives me a console log saying, oh, that agent's moving to a target. And then we have our distance. We're calculate the distance between our agent and our target, and then we kind of throttle the thrust based on how far away we are and our range. And then we pass in our thrust to the forward event, and then we just return success. And so the forward event thrust will just go right to our ship controller, which is the same as the one the player uses, and it just fires off the thrust. Does what it needs to do. So it's a pretty cool system. Behavior trees are definitely kind of my favorite way to organize AI, because you can just keep creating small tasks and then have kind of the logic decision making in a flow chart basically. And you can make you can add a task for anything. If you want your AI to know how to change the power the power balance in your ship, put more to shields, or more to guns, or more to engines, you can set up a task for your AI to do that. And you can set up a bunch of logic that says, hey, if the player is going this speed, they have a faster ship than me, let's put more power to engines, and you can have your AI do that. So this type of system can kind of create those complex behaviors without having to hard code it completely, I guess. As with a finite state machine, you'd probably have to have a giant list of things that are possible. So yeah, so this is kind of the sample. You can see I think my turn to target for asteroid avoidance is a little bit terrible. It's kind of an amalgamation of different methods, but and you can see here I've been messing with what we want here. And there's a lot of ray casts and things like that to see kind of what the AI is doing. But it basically just kind of rotates based on how close it is and which rotation check kind of wins. And so we could randomize this if statement and not always choose right first. You could do left first, or choose a random one, and if it works, then do it, kind of thing. Yeah, and then it just fires off this turn event. But there's a bunch of other random stuff here. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. So I can show you the sequence here, and this is super simple. It just is a for each of the whatever the nodes are inside that list for the sequence, and it just runs through them, and kind of repeats itself until it's finished. And yeah, I learned this from a book on Unity AI 2017, it was called. Um, and it's a pretty cool book. And let's see if I can figure out. It's called Unity 2017 Game AI Programming, 3rd edition. Barrera was the main author, I guess. But yeah, that book really was kind of one of the few books I think that really kind of went into how to build one of these things. So they don't go as deep as I went with mine, but they give you the basics that of how it kind of functions, and it's pretty good. And basically, their sequence and selector style is kind of hard to beat. I think it's pretty solid. So and their base node and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that I have here, I've learned from that book, and some other AI books as well. But definitely, this is a pretty good one. And then just kind of like studying behavior designer and having used it, knowing kind of what the possibilities are. So I'm still, since this is my own version of these things, still working out the kinks and figuring out how to implement certain things. But yeah, so hope to share this in more of a tutorial fashion in the future, and kind of walk you through the steps for how to set it up, and add some more behaviors for the enemies. In my old game, versions of the game, I had enemies doing like loops and things like that, and switching weapons and using missiles and uh, formations and things like that. So all that stuff's possible with the behavior tree. So I don't have the damage system on this guy, but um, pretty cool. Oh, he's chasing me. Let's see if I can. Oh, he's gonna win. So again, no timer on this, so he's just gonna chase me until he gets close enough to trigger the next behavior. So usually I put some sort of time limit on that stuff, because also like you can have them test for range and things like that. So say their target gets out of range, you probably want to have them switch targets, especially when you have a lot more ships and things to fight. And yeah, my AI collision is still an area that I feel is not up to par yet. So I have some crazy ideas for 3D A-star type things as well. So I don't know if I would use it for these kind of small asteroids, but maybe I would. So that will be another kind of tutorial as well in the future. But I think when the collision avoidance works, and you have a trail on your ship, your AI, it's kind of fun to watch them and how they track around things and stuff like that. It looks super cool. So this isn't even that super long a trail, but it's kind of neat to see what he's doing. So he just dove through all those asteroids. It's so cool. Yeah. So when it works, it's neat. And we should be able to add a couple more AI agents to this. I'm gonna add some guns to this enemy ship with our weapon system, which is modular and usable by humans and AI. So shouldn't be any problem to add that stuff to him, and then just add a behavior that says if there's a target in front of me, fire, I guess. You know, so that's just another sequence, basically, that you can add on. So you could add that into the move towards target, actually, if you wanted, where if you're moving towards the target and it's within range and it's in sight, you can take it out, you know. So I'm firing the blue lasers, which are actually my secondary weapons, although I haven't enabled a button to switch between them. So another update for the tutorial series is the weapon system, I guess. I don't know. I guess we kind of have a weapon system, but a weapon controller. So right now, I think in the tutorial, the weapons are kind of like attached to the ship controller, and so in order to fire them, we kind of have to have some sort of hard lock to the controller, and we're going to break that out into a weapons controller component, and it can manage a little bit more of the weapons, I guess. So like different groupings of weapons and what's equipped and what the player's firing, and maybe even like energy type allocations and things like that. So so that's another thing that's kind of in the works, and really I should do that tutorial before I jump into the long explanation of behavior trees, but I feel like it'd be fun for people to have a reactive AI like this that they could build onto. You know, I'll show you the beginning steps, and you can see what you come up with, and then we can add the weapons controller, which we have. You know, you have guns that work, so you don't really need the setup to equip things and change groups and stuff like that. But once we start adding new types of weapons and missiles and other things like that, or the ability to like switch weapons or buy weapons in a store or something, you're going to want a weapon controller component so that you can you know, swap modules and things like that. So well, he's real stuck here. So this is one of the problems with a lot of the ray casting AI. Anything that's kind of convex, you get a little trapped. And then also, I think what's probably happening is he's hitting all of his raycasts are kind of like in the rock. So like if we go to, sorry, this is a real mess now, but oh no, I'm gonna have to make sure that our lasers get deleted. Okay, that's bad. Okay, so we're probably using up all the resources. We got floating point precision errors on the lasers. They're apparently flying out. Okay, let's look at them. Okay, so here you can see we're zoomed in. We can't even see the rock here. Okay, so we have one yellow raycast that seems to be a nice one, but some of the other ones are all shooting that way. So I wonder if these are not registering a hit because they're like inside, they're kind of smushed inside this rock, so they don't see this rock here. If one of the gotchas of raycasts in Unity is that if a raycast originates inside of an object, it doesn't register that object as a hit. So it works well if you're emitting a raycast from an object and you don't want to have it hit. As long as you kind of put it on the origin, it works out okay. But if you don't, then it if your object is getting close to something else and sort of like clipping through it, and then you fire off a raycast, then it might not register. So that's what I think is happening here. These are kind of like forward vectors, sort of. They seem to me to be spread out too, to help with the turning. And what they're doing is they're aiming at the direction that the ship wants to go. And they're not doing so well. And yeah, he's hitting something too. So yeah, I would say that I would want him to go down here. Down seems to be an obvious choice, but I guess there's something going on where it's not registering a hit. Well, it kind of is, but it's registering a hit here. I don't know what turning it's turning to, but there you go. So that's probably why. So anyway, if we shoot him a few more times, maybe we need to get above him. Oops. I need to lock my cursor. Okay. There we go. You're free. Man, he's stuck on this thing. Okay, there he goes. So yeah, you kind of want to avoid having them drag themselves around an asteroid. With my damage system, collisions cost like 10 points of damage, so if he had a collider, a collision system on him, he would explode. So let's see here. Again, apologize for the mess here. I just copied the asteroid field a billion times to give the enemy something interesting to have to navigate. Okay, let's see here. Where's my damageable script? Let's just toss it on. Why not? Okay. What's his max HP? 100 and 100. And do we have an explosion? We'll just do this shield explosion. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, this was my damage thing. So if I shoot him, now he's running. Well, so that's another behavior you can set up for your behavior tree. You get hit, maybe you want to run, instead of charging. Boom, he exploded. So I think my secondary bullets are high damage. But the other thing is, if he starts crashing into stuff, he's going to explode. Let's see. Yeah, he's doing a good job. Oop. Get him crammed in here. Let's see. Ooh. So I crashed into that, but so of course now he'll have perfect AI and he'll never crash. Let's see. Yeah, my capital ship is now stuck inside an asteroid. So, if we're trying to be like Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon, one, the ship's gonna have to be a little bit faster than me. But ooh, I think he exploded. There you go. He crashed into that. So yeah, so the damage, if you keep banging into stuff, you're gonna explode. So it probably didn't take much for him to explode. He probably just went bang, bang, bang into it. 10 damage, I bet. Probably just kept hitting it. I don't see it on here, but so yeah, so now I have nothing to fight. Okay. Huh. Those projectiles give off shadows. That's stupid. Okay. Yeah. And I think if he tries to fly through this debris, he gets hurt too, so that's kind of fun. That's probably why he's not going anywhere near it. Yeah, because all these little rocks have colliders on them, so if he gets close to one, he's going to try to avoid it. Ooh, and then he smashed into something. So yeah, so that's kind of an interesting feature, right? You could blow something up and then have the little chunks of it be dangerous to ships and stuff, so that could be a cool strategy. Anyway, I don't know what else there is to show right now. But anyway, so if you tuned in or you tune in later, please like and subscribe, and look forward to the next tutorial on AI. If you also, I guess if you comment in the comments which one you like better, if you want to do weapons controller first before we jump into the behavior tree, you can always leave a comment expressing your opinion. But I think the AI is going to be a lot of fun, so hopefully I can explain it in less than an hour, and also setting up a way for people to download some of this code, I guess. I don't know, part of me feels like you get more out of a tutorial if you follow along and actually type. That's just my own learning style probably, but I also just want to say thanks for being a subscriber. So if you really just want to jump into something, maybe I'll start providing some of the basics here for setting up a game. So yeah, but I think just downloading the code, especially downloading something like the behavior tree that I set up, you might just look at it and go, I don't know what Mike was trying to tell me here. So following along with something that as I explain it might be helpful. So, and maybe tonight's little stream was helpful too. So I noticed there's a little rock on this asteroid. I just kind of want to blast it. Oh, is it not moving? Another thing I need to do is UI, like maybe some crosshairs. And these guns need to be ranged too. It's really hard to hit stuff. Okay. Oh, it didn't even move. There we go. Target practice. Yeah, so anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and like and subscribe, and make sure you tune in to the next tutorial.